Ocean Shores Planning Commission meeting to order. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. It's 2 p.m. We're in the Ocean Shores Library on Point Brown Avenue in Ocean Shores, Washington. We'll do call to order. Commissioner Bricker.
Here.
Commissioner Johnston.
Here.
Commissioner Kern.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Yo.
Commissioner Lawless is here. I'd like a motion to approve Commissioner B's absence.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, I'd like to have a motion to approve the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
We'll move.
Second? All. Approval of minutes for the regular City of Ocean Shores Planning Commission meeting on June 10th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
We'll move.
Second?
Second. Who was the first?
Yes, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to public communication. Anything in-house, gentlemen? Good to see you. Any public communication from afar? Hi, Vita. Hi, Susan.
Hello, Mark. Thank you. This is Susan. Not at this time.
Not at this time. Vita, do you have anything, words of wisdom for us today?
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. Nope, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Don, do you have anything for us?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, Don.
Okay, I'm having some trouble. Oh, no, nothing at all. Have a nice day, just watching.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to adjourn the Planning Commission meeting at 2:02 for the purpose of a public hearing. A public hearing before the Ocean Shores Planning Commission to receive public comment for and against the proposed rezone for Division 17, Block 2, Lot 44 of Ocean Shores, the property of 1045 Tonkin Avenue Southwest, Ocean Shores, Washington, 98569. From R7 multifamily medium density to B1 retail commercial. Marshall, would you like to take it?
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna follow an order in this public hearing that's very similar to what we do in the hearings where we have a hearing examiner presiding. First of all, as the city planner, I'm gonna read the staff report associated with this request. And then I will give the applicant an opportunity to present their documents and their supporting statements for their project. And then we're going to hear from members of the public, first in person and then online. And as questions arise in there, if either the planning department, and I have our building official Roy Simmons here today to answer questions regarding building code questions that may come up. And then we'll go back to the applicant or city planner as necessary to try to get answers to those questions. And so I'm going to start out with a staff report. This public hearing is for the Planning Commission to hear arguments for or against the rezone RZ 25-000001 for the Hall and Lemieux project. Date that this application was submitted, 5/28/2025. The date of the report is 6/4/2025. The purpose is an application for a rezone being requested to change zoning from an R7 multifamily medium density zone to a B1 retail commercial for the purpose of transient rental. The applicants are George Hall and Michelle Lemieux. The project property is located at 1045 Tonkin Avenue Southwest in Ocean Shores. Project description, the name is Hall and Lemieux, parcel number 0933-0120-4400. This is in Division 17, Block 12 and Lot 44. The site address is 1045 Tonquin Avenue Southwest. The lot size is approximately 1,178 square feet. The existing conditions, the zoning is an R7. The land use is multifamily medium density, and it is not in the shoreline jurisdiction. The surrounding conditions, to the north, R7, multifamily medium density. To the south, R7 multifamily medium density. To the east, R1 single family. To the west, R7 medium density. I want to make a note here in the zoning that the zoning map shows R7 in the Oyhut land development. That actually went through a planned unit development agreement where it was approved by city council for B1 uses within that. But we have not changed that on the map because a violation of the planned unit development could revert these properties back to R7. So the land use designation for these to the north of this parcel is multifamily medium density. To the south is multifamily medium density. To the east is single family. To the west, multifamily medium density. The current or the existing land use to the north and south are undeveloped. To the east is residential single family, and to the west is undeveloped. We are counting the buffer between Oyhut Bay and this parcel as undeveloped. That's an area that's a separate parcel that isolates it from the Oyhut Bay development. Okay, the background, the subject property addressed at 1045 Tonquin Avenue Southwest is located in the southwest quadrant of Ocean Shores. The closest intersecting road is Marine View Drive Southwest, approximately 237 feet north. The property is located in the R7 multifamily medium density zone. Notices of this public hearing for the rezone application 2501 scheduled for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 at 2 p.m. were sent out to the owners within 300 feet of the subject property on June 6, 2025 as required by the Ocean Shores Municipal Code 1752-090. Hearing information was also made available at the City of Ocean Shores website, www.osgov.com. The notice of the public hearing was also provided to the Daily World newspaper for publication in the June 10th and June 12th, 2025 editions. The rezone of this property from R7 to B1 is necessary in order to permit and license the use of transient rental. The standard of review, the project proposal for rezoning was reviewed per Ocean Shores Municipal Code 1728-020, permitted uses of the R7 zone, and Ocean Shores Municipal Code 1734-020, which is the B1 zone retail commercial. The R7 zone specifically prohibits the permitting and licensing of a transient rental. The B1 zone is intended for retail commercial uses and providing day-to-day goods and services, financial, professional and commercial services are intended for this district, as well as mercantile, lodging, food, and a host of other services of that nature. All uses and structures are to be of good appearance, well-designed, and free of hazards, nuisances, or other unattractive attributes. Code analysis, this project would be permitted in an R7 zone for Ocean Shores Municipal Code 1728, would be prohibited, not permitted. Permitted uses are as follows. All uses permitted in the R1 zone, two-family dwellings or multifamily dwellings. The intended purpose of this district is intended for medium density multifamily dwelling structures in order to assure adequate light, air, open space, privacy, and the protection of property values while providing affordable housing in the community. Row houses and other similar forms of development may be permitted if the location and design of the development is consistent with the purpose of the district and makes adequate provisions for circulation, utilities, and protection of the environment. Limited forms of commercial uses serving the immediate residential area may also be permitted. Other uses should only be allowed if they are compatible with these values and consistent with the overall public interest. Where the proposed use would be inconsistent with the purpose of the district, a rezone to B1 retail commercial is required at a minimum to allow for the use of a transient rental. The proposed site plan shall conform to all city standards, providing the application would not reduce the dimensional requirements of the district. The summary of criteria. 1750-055 transient rentals. A, the purpose of the ordinance codified in this section by petition or initiative is to protect the character of the city's residential neighborhoods by prohibiting transient rental of dwellings and recreational vehicles therein. Use of dwellings for transient rental purposes have unmitigatable adverse impacts on surrounding residential uses and properties, and therefore prohibited except as provided for in these zoning regulations. It is found and determined that transient rental of dwellings has been permitted in the past, and that lawful use of a property pursuant to the former Ocean Shores Municipal Code section 1750-055, 1716-050, and Ocean Shores Ordinances 419 of 1986 and 518 of 1991 may continue for a specified period, subject to certain conditions contained in this section. These conditions include an amortized period of 5 years and provisions for individualized determinations that lawful investments specifically committed to transient rental occupancy have been made and may warrant a longer amortization period. Prohibition of transient rental with exceptions. No owner or entity shall occupy, use, operate, rent, or lease, nor offer or negotiate to use, lease, or rent a dwelling in the R1, R2, R3, R4, 5, 6A, 6B, 6C, R7, R8, and R9 zones for transient rental, except a dwelling holding a lawful conditional use permit for a transient rental on the effective date of the ordinance codified in this section, and which complies with the requirements of subsection C. The Hall and Lemieux property is located in the R7 zone, where a transient rental or nightly rental would be prohibited. In the R7 multifamily zone, a single family residence is designated as a permitted use and would be legal under all applicable city development regulations and feasible based on the conditions of the parcel. In order to operate a business as a transient rental, the parcel must be rezoned to a minimum B1 retail commercial, wherein a transient rental would be a permitted use. Should the planning commission approve this rezone or make a recommendation to approve, the planning department recommends conditions as listed in addition to any conditions imposed by the planning commission or the city council. A state environmental SEPA environmental checklist will be required for the rezone. An Ocean Shores business license would be needed to establish a B1 retail commercial before advertising or conducting business as a transient rental. And so that that concludes the staff report on this application. And at this point, I think I would like to turn it over to the applicants. Is it Dawn and Michelle? George, sorry, George. I'd like to turn it over to George and Michelle to present their supporting documents for the application. Go ahead, guys.
All right, thank you, sir. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to read something that we put together actually that we did not submit with the application. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay. So good afternoon. We have been visiting Ocean Shores for at least 30 years. Our kids grew up going to the kite festivals and various festivals every year, staying at the Sands when it was in its prime. Canterbury and many other hotels.
George, can I interrupt for just a minute? You need to speak into the microphone just a little bit more so that we can, hear you in the room and the rest of the people online can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll start over. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
All right, sure. We've been visiting Ocean Shores for over 30 years. Our kids grew up going to the kite festivals and various festivals every year, staying at the Sands when it was in its prime, the Canterbury, and many other hotels. We enjoyed our razor clamming and surf perch fishing, beach combing, surf for agates on Damon Point, taking our kids to the Interpretive Center, bumper boats, putt-putt, go-kart, shopping, etc. over the years. As we begin to reach our retirement years, we decided to look for a location somewhere along the coast where we can relax and enjoy. We explored properties from La Push to Long Beach, which we liked, but decided that Ocean Shores had our hearts. On our relentless search, we stumbled upon a piece of property on Tonquin Avenue that our real estate agent didn't even know existed. or was available at the time. We immediately fell in love with the property in the area for 2 years, for 2 years, we visited and camped in our trailer, dreaming of one day like building a cute little home that we could retire. The area is full of wildlife and right next to all of the amenities of a large resort. Live music we hear from our property, grocery store, restaurants, etc. We started to explore the option of building and possibly doing a short-term rental, VRBO, and thought how great it would be for other families with kids to come and enjoy our home and amenities as well. We started to do some research and looked up the Ocean Shore City zoning maps. And to our surprise, we discovered that we were in the exact same zone on the maps as the Oi Hut Resort. Our dream became more real. So we started the process of building our home, creating a perfect place, not just for us, our kids and grandchildren, but also for other families and their children and grandchildren. Once we completed our home and read through all of Ocean Shore's STR requirements, talked to BRBO to learn about their requirements, and found a company in Ocean Shores to manage, clean, mow, and dispose of garbage, etc. We started the process of business license and the city permitting, and found out by calling the city of Ocean Shores that we were not in the same zone as Oi Hut. Even the zoning map clearly showed that we were devastated. Desperately have been communicating openly with the city and are willing to do whatever is required of us to save our home. We understand that there are major concerns from longtime residents regarding short-term rentals, and rightly so. I also would be concerned, especially if the area was strictly residential. Where our home is located, however, is feet from Oi Hut Resort, grocery store and retails, and hundreds of rental homes, condos, etc. We love our home and the area and do not want any of it to be negatively impacted. We will take great care about who rents the home and make sure they follow the regulations and restrictions such as noise restrictions, dog leash laws, parking requirements, number of guests, proper garbage disposal, etc. We are not seeking to change the zone so that we can make a profit. We are simply wanting to save our home. The inability to rent our home for others to enjoy will force us to have to sell it. Thank you all for listening and considering our unique situation.
Okay, and then I have, just so everybody knows where this place is, and I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try anyway. We can, hopefully.
Yeah, go ahead and give that a shot.
So, oops. Here, can you guys see it?
We can.
Okay, here's Oi Hut Resort. All here in the blue. Here's Tonquin Avenue. And Marine Drive. Here's our property, our house that we built is right here in the zone. Or it shows that we're in the zone.
Actually, we're one space lower than that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I read something wrong.
We're right here.
Yeah, we're
The parking lot is here. There's a driveway, and then our property's here. Over here, these are also Oi Hut Resort homes that are not shown in the zone on the
in
map.
B1 zone.
So that's where we are. And then I wanted to kind of show you also, here we are. This was when we were building, of course, but there's the Oi Hut Resort. This is Tonquin Avenue.
And that's the lot right next to it, which would be east of us. And then the third section of that same lot that it shows in the blue is that parking lot area for Oi Hut
Yes, and then so those are all Oi Hut that aren't shown on the map.
with the driveway and everything. That's 2 lots.
And then our property backs right up to where the store is there. And then I also just want to share a couple pictures of our home.
Just to give you an idea what the house looks like on the street.
So here's our home that we built, and it has lots of parking. Like we said in the letter, we already have a company that will take care of, manage it, take care of the garbage, the mowing, the cleaning, all the things when we're not there. Yeah, so there's
More
those more pictures. Couple more. I don't know if anybody wants to see the inside, but we have lots of pictures.
They're just from the road.
Of the home, and then there's more pictures of, kind of gives you the idea of, whoops, I gotta go back. Here's the store. We put up the fence, of course, just for privacy, because the store is right there, and so is what is the restaurant or bar that's right there behind us? Corks and Taps is right directly behind us as well. And you can see they're right out here, Corks and Taps in the store. So we did do here's the application. And we did do the SERPA checklist. How do you say it? SEPA. So we did that and turned that in just to make sure that we're following everything correctly. And of course, the change of zone application. So is there anything else that anybody would like to see?
I think you've given a really good outline of what your proposal would consist of. Thank you both for contributing that. If you don't have anything that you would like to add, I will go ahead and read the written comments that planning received. I would just like to also add in that when you guys filled out the SEPA checklist, we sent that out to all of the agencies that were required to for review. And we did not have any negative comments come back in regards to environmental concerns. So your SEPA is basically a clean bill there.
Oh, good.
All right, so the first public comment that I'm going to read into record came from Randolph Peck of Ocean Shores, and he says that I oppose the rezoning to B1. We already had one owner on Marine View Drive attempt to get a conditional use to allow nightly rental. Now we have a change of zoning to affect the same change in another residential zoned area. The camel is still trying to get his nose under the tent. We voted to limit nightly rentals to B1 areas. Oyhut Bay's business plan allows for nightly rental, and the city changed the zoning for a whole parcel to allow it. Just because you are adjacent to that property doesn't afford you the right to change zoning. If you want to do nightly rental, you buy in a B1 zone. Also, was that house built to the IBC requirements as set forth by our building official? I suspect it wasn't built with the required egress and sprinklers. Stop trying to get around the will of the voting citizenry. Nightly rental has been banned in Mammoth Lake, Anaheim, San Diego, Asheville, Stillicum, Leavenworth, and many other tourist destinations. Why are we once again behind the curve? Do not allow the attempted creep of nightly rental. If someone wants to do it correctly. Buy B1, build it per the code, and don't try to backdoor the process. And that concludes Mr. Peck's comments. I do not have any other written comments unless Deanna or Michelle. Oh, no, I do have one more. This is from Deanna and Arnold Frady. And Deanna Arnold Frady and Charles Frady of 117 Marine View Drive Southwest. Dear Planning Department, we are writing to express our mutual objection of the rezone request by George Hall and Michelle Lemieux, address 1045 Tonquin Avenue Southwest, parcel number 093301204400. My husband, Charles Frady, and I own a nearby residence located at 117 Marine View Drive Southwest, Ocean Shores. In July, we intend to relocate to this residence full-time. We purchased this home with our intention of enjoying our retirement years in a family-oriented neighborhood, which now includes families with young children and retirees. Further, we intentionally purchased in a neighborhood that was zoned for residential use only and we're encouraged that Ocean Shores have limited the Oyhat Bay planned unit community to be primarily inward facing with the clearly defined zoning. We assume this was thoughtfully considered by the Ocean Shores Planning Department to limit the impact of the Oyhat Bay retail, restaurants, and vacation rental properties on the surrounding neighborhoods. We do enjoy the amenities of Oyhat Bay planned community. We're not concerned about the Oyhat Bay community's expansion to the development and establishment of 5 vacation rental homes located on the canal at Marine View Drive. Unfortunately, we were naive in our consideration. With the addition of more Oyhat Bay community vacation rental properties on Marine View Drive and a bar in the Oyhat retail building close to Marine View Drive, we have seen an increase in loud disruptive noise well into the night and alcohol under the influence related incidents. Last summer, when the terrible vehicle accident occurred on Tonquin Avenue, we were first on scene administering aid to the injured people. When that incident occurred, we were so thankful that there were not any pedestrians involved. There are many people of all ages that walk and bike from Marine View Drive onto Tonquin Avenue to enjoy the nature preserve and beach there. This neighborhood street should remain a quiet, safe residential access route. We understand that we cannot interfere with the permitted zoned use already established. However, we can and do strongly urge the planning department to uphold the current residential zoning to prevent further business-oriented spread into our neighborhood. Please note that on the surface, this single rezone request may seem inconsequential. However, this rezone request from R7 to B1 has the potential to open the proverbial floodgates. Should this request be approved, then it will establish a precedent for future rezone requests with the potential of more businesses, including transient housing, spilling into our neighborhood. We walk our dogs here, our children and grandchildren ride bikes on the quiet street leading to the beach. We visit our neighbors here, our families desire to sleep peacefully in our neighborhood. Please help us preserve our neighborhood and our safety by not approving this rezone request. You are welcome to contact us directly with any questions or to further discuss our concerns. Thank you for your kind consideration. Sincerely, Deanna Arnold Frady and Charles Frady. And so that concludes both written requests that were received by the planning department. And at this time, I would like to open it up for members of the public in the room if they have public comment that they would like to provide. Anybody in the room? Andy? Okay, so we have an agreement from the room with the 2 written comments that were submitted. Anybody else in the room? So I'd like to go online and we'll start with Susan Canary. If you'd like to testify, Susan. Oh, it's not that formal. I'm not going to require to swear you in. Thanks, though. I appreciate that.
Thanks very much, everyone, for letting me speak. But before I start my comment, I would just like to tell the applicants that I pass by your home every day when I go out to the beach, and you truly have built a lovely piece of property. And I appreciate the fact that it looks so nice. So thank you for that. But I am against the proposed rezoning to B1 for this property. This house was recently built. If the owners wanted to operate a transient rental, they had every opportunity to purchase property already zoned B1, where nightly rentals are explicitly allowed. Instead, they are seeking a zoning change that would bypass the rules the community has clearly established. We have seen similar efforts in other residential areas, including a recent attempt on Marine View Drive, where they tried to secure a conditional use permit for a nightly rental. Now, instead of following the proper process and building in B1, another property owner is asking the city to change the zoning to fit their business plan. And that is not how land use policy should work. I also have concerns about whether the structure was built to the building code standards required for transient accommodations, such as appropriate egress and fire suppression systems. If it wasn't, then it wasn't built for this use in the first place. Cities with vibrant tourism economies have increasingly recognized the importance of drawing clear lines around short-term rentals. Communities like Leavenworth and others have chosen to restrict or prohibit nightly rentals in order to protect neighborhood character and long-term housing. The fact that this property is located adjacent to Oyhat Bay is of no consequence. Ocean Shores needs to stay consistent with the values expressed by its residents. Our zoning should not be altered piecemeal to accommodate individual interests. If someone wants to operate a nightly rental, they should do it the right way, by purchasing property in a B1 zone and building to code. Please protect the integrity of our residential zones and deny this rezoning request. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Vito, would you like to testify?
Yes, I'd like to speak. Thank you, Marshall.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for having me. I agree with the previous speakers, and I too do not support this rezone. Apparently, in the business, this is what's known as a land use action after the fact, because the building was already constructed under the R1 zoning. I do have a question, and I would like to know if the structure does have sprinklers in it. And if it does have sprinklers, were those sprinklers installed under IBC Chapter 9, which uses NFPA 13 as the standard? Or was it constructed using the IRC Section P2409, which uses the NFPA D standard? I really don't have any other comments, but I just wanted to, I'd like to get that question answered. Thank you.
Can I address the question?
I think after
Yeah, I'm gonna let Dawn go ahead. Dawn Williams, do you have comments that you would like to provide?
Yes, am I online here?
Yep, we can hear you, Dawn. Go ahead.
Okay, I agree with the other speakers. I'm fundamentally opposed to changing existing zoning where everybody knows what's going on to the business zoning for the purpose of rentals. And I think that the code that you read to the audience here says it all. It's just not fair to do that. I'm opposed to it, and I think if someone wants to put a residential zone into a business, I think they ought to petition the planning commission of the city to change the entire area to that. And that would be the step that I would say should be taken, as opposed to piecemeal rezoning one particular lot. And those are my comments. Again, I'm definitely opposed to this. I want to follow the existing zoning for the benefit of most of the residences in the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. So we're gonna back up to Vita Pierre's question regarding construction with sprinklers as would be required in a transient rental. I'm gonna turn that over for comment to our building official, Roy Simmons. Go ahead, Roy.
So the permit was applied for, and if you look on the building permit itself, it does show that the zoning is R7. The permit was for an R3, not to confuse the Chapter 3 of the IBC, which breaks down use and occupancy, with the zoning codes, because they have the same numbering and lettering, but it means totally different things. And so this was applied for as an R3. That's a single family residence in Chapter 3 of the IBC. It did not have a sprinkler system. And Vita, to your point, it's the 2904.1.1, and it's also Appendix AWV 107.1. These are in the residential code. This is out of the residential code. So it automatically takes you back over, and you end up at 903.2.8.1 in the IBC, and to have a state amendment in there where they've actually decreased the amount of exemptions. Instead of saying one of, it says all, you must have all of. And so it has made it more difficult to get out of sprinklers on that. Our requirement, yes, if you were going to be a R1 in the zoning code or in the building code, and it's going to be a transient rental, you would apply for that. I would have made sure that the steps didn't exceed 7 inches. And I mean, there's a lot of things in the garage area and the front of the house and the rear entrance and all these things have to have different codes. The sprinklers are the #1 requirement, and that would have been reviewed and approved through the fire marshal and then ran back through me through the permit on that. And so zoning on my side doesn't really matter much. Not really dog in the fight either way. It's just if it was to be a nightly rental, there's a few things that need to be taken care of to get it in that position. So.
Okay, like to go back to Vita Piera for a follow-up. You're muted still there, Vita.
Thank you, Marshall. I would like to present a rebuttal to Roy's analysis that these single-family residences are R3 occupancy as defined in Chapter 3 of the IBC. If you look at the definitions in the IBC, that R3 occupancy designation is actually for permanent occupancies, not transient occupancies. Transient occupancies are typically R1 occupancies. And I understand the distinction, Roy. Unlike other people that may be present, I have a background in this area. And so, for instance, the city of Seattle, which obviously is a lot bigger than the city of Ocean Shores, classifies their transient occupancies as R1s. So I think fundamentally what's going on here, with due respect to Roy, that the city has chosen to designate those as R3s, even though that R3 occupancy is supposed to be for more permanent and typically owner-occupied structures. The purpose of classifying them as the R3, so I'm assuming, first of all, this structure does not have sprinklers in it, which is another reason for not approving the rezone. But the IRC is allowed to be used in those R3 occupancies under the plumbing code, which I said before was P2904, which is equivalent to the NFPA 13D standard. So it gives developers an opportunity to install the systems it's an equivalent to the NFPA 13D, but it's cheaper to install. And in that case, it doesn't invoke all the other conditions as you described regarding egress that would be required if it were an occupancy under the IBC. So I think the city needs to rethink that R3 going forward, that is, and we can talk about non-conforming use another time, but I think the city needs to rethink that designated R3 occupancy for transient occupancies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vita. You had a point of clarification.
Yeah, so just to be clear, an R3 in the residential code, and as pointed out in Chapter 3 of the IBC, that is for a single family residence. Now you can still have an R3 and you can still rent long-term rentals. You can, like your house yourself, you could rent that out longer than 30, days as a non-transient rental. And so a non-transient rental is an R2, and then a transient rental is an R1. And so where you can use parts of the IRC in that, once you put the use into an R1, that's going to move you into a different sprinkler system. It's typically not a flow-through system. They're typically a standalone system that runs through the house. And if you don't get the gallons that you need, per minute, you end up with, tank and pump systems, different kinds of things. But it does change the R1 and the R3. Where I generally find the rub is through planning. has an R1 as a single family and building code has an R3 as a single family. And it's kind of a weird thing that we never got together, so.
At the risk of repeating, go ahead, Vita, and finish your thought there.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. So I just want to say, if this building does not have sprinklers in it, regardless of whether it's under Chapter 9 or the IRC, it should not be allowed to be a transient rental and rezoned to B1. Thank you.
Can I,
Thank you, Vita.
can I ask a clarifying question? I have stayed in a couple Airbnbs there, down towards Damon Point. And they did not have any sort of sprinkler system. So I'm trying to understand if all short-term rentals and Ocean Shores require a sprinkler system?
So can I speak to that? Okay, so to answer you, so Oyhut doesn't have sprinklers in it. That's a planned community. That was a deal that was made between the then mayor and the developer when that started. So that's a whole separate deal. If I was there then, that may not be the case. But I would also tell you that there are there are very few, but there are a few houses. There are condos. There are actually ran as hotels. Different places ran that way. So up to 2016, when they decided on changing this code and making it this way, anything that would existed before that time was allowed to continue as that use because that was going to pose harm to a buyer who bought it as a nightly rental. And then all of a sudden the city's saying it's no longer a nightly rental, you're in the wrong zone, or you need to put in cost prohibitive, sprinkler systems. So they did make allowances. They do have a code section from the city of Ocean Shores that talks about exiting maps and fire extinguishers and every 6 months it has to have an inspection from the fire marshal. So there are numerous things that they tried to put into place to make the older places safe, because there was a lot of condos that are now maybe one or two people live in them, and the rest of them are all rented out. And to go back, like I said, if it was always used that way and then that use changed, it would cause people harm.
Okay, so if we've got those questions answered, I'd like to go ahead and turn to the planning commission to see if you guys have questions regarding the application.
Commissioners, any comments?
I can comment. I don't have a question. I'm against it. I think we keep the R's and the B's and the B's. And like we've already turned down that one that was right down the road. And if you approve one, you're gonna get another one, gonna say, okay, you did it for them, I want to do it for me.
Any other comments, commissioners? Any comments? Lauren?
I'm confused. Does this house have a sprinkler or not?
No.
No, but we can definitely install one.
Well,
And-
here's actually where we're coming from, okay? When we started this, we put those pictures up of the zoning map. The zoning map that the city of Ocean Shores has on their site shows our lot in the same zone as Oyhut Bay. There's our lot, there's one lot that's completely wooded, and then the next lot is their parking lot.
We certainly would not
So-
have built the house if we didn't.
Hold on, and then they build the 4 or 5 or 6 houses on the bay, the canal there, that are clearly outside of the zone. So we're just trying to recognize where these lines are drawn and why it feels like we're being discriminated against in this zone. So, and if you're just a normal person that does not do this every day or every other day, you look at what you've got out there and it looks like we're in the correct zone to do this.
Yeah, the Ocean City or Ocean Shore City.
So we're just
zoning
trying to
map
be,
Shows that we are in the zone. That is why we built the house.
trying to understand how we were supposed to know without first contacting, I guess, first sight of the planning zone map, we were good. We did not, however, know all the restrictions of or requirements for a fire sprinkler system. So and at this point, at the rate it's looking, I'm glad we didn't spend the extra money to do it. So I just need some clarification as to how we appear to be in the zone, but yet we are not. And everybody says, you know, hey, it's very clear what zone you're in, but not very clear at all. If you look at what's out there.
Okay, so I'm going to respond, and I'm going to bring up a detail that I laid out in my original staff report. So the Oyhut Bay planned unit development falls into a specific section of code 1742, and I'm just going to read through a little bit. A planned unit development for the purpose of this title shall be defined as a parcel 1 acre or larger where dwellings are clustered in order to provide larger, more usable open space, more flexible siting of dwellings in relation to natural characteristics of the site. Developments may also include smaller lots than the minimum size, which Oyhut Bay does. So they go through the reasons for a planned unit development, and then they talk about the types of dwellings, the occupancy permit. It's a negotiated settlement between the city or the city council and the developer at the time of the application. I can tell you that the Oyhut Bay planned unit development has smaller lot sizes than what would be allowed within the city, the 7,200 square foot lot size. Their setbacks are different, and their zoning is different. Part of that development agreement is if they were to violate the terms of the agreement as outlined, and recorded against that parcel, the entire development would revert back to the R7 zone, which is what it showed as. The same thing would be applicable to the 7 lots across the street that you guys pointed out are shown as the R1 zoning, and that's what those were. They negotiated to add those 7 parcels that were owned by the Oyhut Bay development and roll those into the development agreement. That was done several years ago, and the council approved that at the time. But the same thing would apply. If there were a violation to the terms of that, those parcels would not revert to R7. They would revert back to R1 uses only. And so that's kind of the history and the method that the planned unit development, Oyhut Bay, went through to be able to do transient rentals in that area that was originally zoned in R7. One of the things in the definition here, the sites that are available to enter into a planned unit development agreement are larger than 1 acre. So the very beginning of this, a planned unit development for the purpose of this title shall be defined as a parcel 1 acre or larger. And the Oyhut Bay development met that criteria. So I hope that provides clarification for anybody having questions about planned unit developments and how those parcels within the Oyhut Bay were allowed to be using B1 uses. Do we have any other? Go ahead, Thor.
I'm a little confused. The map they showed of that neighborhood was all colored light blue, including their lot and Oyhut Bay. Was that a zoning map or is that something else?
No, that is a zoning map, and that's an accurate representation of what's on the map. But the uses for Oyhut Bay that are in the R7 were negotiated as a B1, the transient rental uses.
Yeah.
If they fail to adhere to the planned unit development conditions as outlined, there's a whole, it's a fairly large document. If they don't adhere to those conditions, then that property would revert back to an R7 and they would no longer be able to operate transient rentals in it.
I get that, but the map they showed indicated, at least unless I'm misreading it, that their property, these folks' lot, as well as a number of others on the western side of Tonkin, are same color as Oyhut Bay itself. Does that indicate it's the same zone or is that something else?
Well, they all started out as the same zone, and if Oyhut Bay fails.
I mean now.
Oh, currently, yeah, no, they're still zoned, they're still shown as light blue all the way through there.
Which means what?
Well, we don't have a special zoning color for a planned unit development. So
Yeah,
Oh, so why is it not showing as B1?
Is Ojai Bay B1?
It has B1 uses associated with their planned unit development agreement. Yes.
But it's still zoned as R7.
What? This doesn't
It's
make-
got essentially a conditional use permit,
Okay.
essentially.
Why are these folks' lot colored light blue?
Because they were all R7 zoned parcels.
So you're saying light blue is R7,
Is
Yeah.
R7, that's correct, yes.
and not B1.
Not B1 or planned unit development or any other designation. It's just the light blue is R7 in the color designation.
Well, that was zoning about 10 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments by commissioners? Well, my concern, since there's no other, my concern after reviewing the documents, visiting the property and the neighborhood is that I find that if we approve this, sprinklers notwithstanding, if we approve this, all of those lots that are not, that have nothing built on them right now, that are vacant, will then say, well, we have set a precedent. I'm going to build here and request B1 designation for that purpose. So after looking at that, I found that it was a slippery slope personally. And so my vote is no.
Okay, so is there anybody else from the planning commission that would like to ask questions or has a question? I'm gonna go back to the applicants one more time. Did you want to share something with us that we have not discussed or?
I don't think
Okay,
so.
so,
No, thank you.
okay, so we're gonna adjourn, we're going to adjourn the hearing with Commissioner Lawless or Chair Lawless, and then you guys can take action. So the purpose of the hearing is for the planning commission to hear testimony, and they will be making a recommendation to the city council. And I'll let Mark speak to that.
At this time, we will reconvene the City of Ocean Shores Planning Commission meeting at 2:52. There is a request of the Ocean Shores Planning Commission to make a recommendation to the city council to approve the proposed rezone of Division 17, Block 2, Lot 44 of Ocean Shores, the property of 1045 Tonkin Avenue Southwest, Ocean Shores, Washington, 98569, from R7 multifamily medium density to B1 retail commercial. Any comments by commissioners before we take action?
Another question, regarding Ojai Bay's special use permit, I guess we could call it, would that be correct?
It's a planned unit development agreement. Yeah.
Did that description extend only to the boundaries of the former development, whoever it was, I forget what they called it?
I believe it was 4 parcels. Yes, it only extended to those parcels.
Didn't inadvertently spill over to these folks' lot or the center line of Tonkin?
No.
So, do I have a motion either to approve the rezone or a motion to deny the rezone?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the rezone.
I will make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the motion to rezone 1045 Tonkin Avenue Southwest, Ocean Shores, Washington, from R7 multifamily medium density to B1 retail commercial. Our recommendation to the city council will be to deny that. So that concludes commission action on the request. So if there's nothing further with that, we'll continue with our agenda.
Thank you, George and Michelle, for your participation and testimony today. So the meeting is going to carry on. If you guys want to stay, you're more than welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda is public restroom follow-up. We have a subcommittee, Commissioner Kern, Commissioner Johnston. Gentlemen, have you come up with anything further on this subcommittee?
I have some questions.
Okay,
The, I'll think again. Sorry about that.
well, you have anything else?
Well, I took it upon myself to actually use the one that's next to the shallow. And immediately discovered that the one stall that I went to use did not have a functional hand dryer in it or any paper towels. So my concern is not only having adequate numbers of them, but properly maintained things so that, you know, the public has the confidence that they can go to them and have, you know, proper maintenance.
Where they're operational.
Yeah, where things are operational and they can have, you know,
When did you visit that?
this last week.
On the cusp of
days, yeah.
first season? I remember what I was gonna mention.
Okay.
So I, on my own auspices as a citizen, have been starting up conversations with the business owners in the mall where the liquor store is. And this week, they are gonna have their single porta potty set up. And I wouldn't say, well, probably most, I didn't really do a survey of those merchants do not allow use of restrooms just because of past experiences that they've had. So for all the tourists and, you know, residents who will be visiting that is typically a very busy mall. I drove by last weekend and could barely find a parking spot there. Will be, I don't, before saying reduced to a single restroom, I have to admit, I haven't done a survey of public restrooms in that area.
Well, my thought is, first off, do we want to ask the public for input? Do we have questions that we could put a survey out through the city website, through the library, asking the citizens for their input? Do we want to do that? And do we have questions for that? And two, what locations would we recommend? If the city council was sitting in this room right now, what recommendations would we make to them concerning locations of restrooms? And is it a sign issue? Okay, now we have those restrooms at the Shiloh, but does anybody know? Is there any signage pointing anyone to them? So is it a sign problem? Is it a restroom problem? Is there locations that we could, as the planning commission, recommend to city council, to the mayor, would be optimum or additional locations for restrooms for the tourists that are going to come visit our city this summer and summers going forward?
I have a comment, question, whatever. I did talk to someone and he happens to be sitting over there on that chair over there last week after our meeting, Jim. And he made a comment that I never thought of, and that is the fact that, you know, if somebody would put up a sign that's being bothered by these people, to, use the restroom, something like right off the bat, our restroom is not available to the public. These restrooms in this area are, and a list of things. Eliminate a lot of the people in busy times asking to use the restroom. The other comment I make is last week I asked, because being a resident here, this is my 5th year, I've never seen anything about the Chamber of Commerce. And I asked you about the Chamber of Commerce, and you said that, yes, we did have one, but we do not have one anymore.
That's correct.
Well, in the communities that I've been involved in, the Chamber of Commerce would actually, which is a group of the retail people that the restrooms aren't going to benefit a lot of the residents, but they're going to benefit the tourism.
Correct.
And get people to want to come here, get people to want to spend money. So why is it the city's responsibility to fund a restroom facility?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question, and I would not want to answer for the city in that one, except I'm going to. I would say why the city has a profound interest is revenue. If people come to Ocean Shores and have a bad experience with a hotel, a restroom, what's the chances that they're going to come back? So the city, I believe, does have, I don't know that the word is responsibility, but certainly an interest in making sure that those citizens of whatever state or country that visit us here in Ocean Shores have a place to go to a restroom if need be. And we have those now by the Shiloh, but there's no signage. Now there's another person who said, don't mention who they are, but they're in this room, who had a great idea. Why not have signs sponsored by a business pointing to where the restrooms are? That might defer some of the cost to the city and get the signs made.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure, please.
Is there any kind of an organization, like retail business organization?
There is one that has been recently formed, and I'm trying to think of the name off the top of my head. But there is the,
Hotel Coalition.
well, there's the Hotel Coalition, but there is the Business Coalition that has gotten together. They've gotten some LTAC money to come up with Visit Ocean Shores.
The Marketing Coalition.
The Marketing Coalition, made up of business people, yes. So,
But does it not, when you're talking about the revenue, if they take care of their revenue, it'll automatically give the city their revenue.
well, I can see your point there. However, who's going to provide restrooms? Right? I mean, see, that's the dilemma right now that we've got, if we're just being honest. Right now, there's not ample public restrooms in the town. And those that are, there's no one knows them because there's no signage to them. So we have several issues here in my mind. One, signage, where are they? And then B, besides the Shiloh, are there places that we could place restrooms to serve the visiting public?
I struggle with this, and I see your boy's point, but I'd hate to see Santa cans all over Ocean Shores. I mean, that just So, and if you look down Point Brown from the gate to the roundabout, there's no place you can put one. There's that one open lot that's with Moby Dix or whatever it is.
Right.
But one of the things that might work, and I'm sure the city that wouldn't want to do it, is the convention center has restrooms. And it can be closed off, so only you can get into that restroom area. Yes, it would take work for some city employee or city employees to clean it and take care of it. But it seems to me that would be a pretty easy solution. And during main events, they're open anyways. You know, I was at the Flag Day parade and I sat in the media, you know, and I had 6 little kids out there. And we were there an hour and a half. Not one of them had to go to the bathroom. So, which is unusual. I didn't check their pants when they left, but
Yeah.
but, so is it really a huge problem or we just need to figure out a way maybe to get the convention center to open up that section of the building on a regular basis, so they're used, and it's centrally located.
True, but then again, where are the signs? I'm still going back. We know that the convention center is open during business hours. And it's not during non-business hours. But if I'm coming here from Shelton, pick a city, doesn't matter, Elma, doesn't matter. Do I know where it is? No, I don't. So signage, I think, is the first thing we need to consider, even though the ones that we have now, regardless of additional. How many people from outside know that there are restrooms next to the Shiloh? Without a sign, very few, I would guess, unless they ask somebody who happens to know. So I think first thing is we need some signage. And then second thing is maybe outside the convention center would be a place to put, you know, some additional porta potties or something. Marshall, do you have any thoughts?
Well, you know, when I need something in an area that I'm unfamiliar with, I pull out my phone and look for public restrooms, and then drop my pin. And normally that produces fruit, just like gas stations or restaurants or whatever. Is that maybe a low cost or a no cost alternative to maybe identify what restrooms we do have, you know, on Google Maps, or are they already there? I don't know. I was just gonna look.
Yeah, that's good idea.
I mean, and I think most people use, I know,
Yeah.
you know, my car, when we get lost, you know, the Google machine comes out and we start trying to find what it is we're looking for. So, as opposed to, you know, I mean, there's 2 schools of thought on signage in the downtown cores. Is everybody wants a sign pointing them to where they want them to go. And then pretty soon you got this massive sea of signs, you know, so is there a way to minimize the signs and still get people where they want to go, using technology that most people use today? So maybe that's something that a person could look into. You know, even if they add new restrooms, you know, drop a universal restroom sign on the map.
Yeah, and you're right. Most people walk around with their computer,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Is, would it be feasible to go to places like the library, Ace Hardware, you know, people that have decent, nice public restrooms and get their permission or to, you know, if we do go, or if we do consider the sign method, you know, recommend that, is we would certainly need their permission to do that, wouldn't they?
Of course.
Okay, okay, I just was.
Speaking of signage, like you could create a sign or a digital sign, like every mall you walk into any entrance in the mall, there's a sign that shows all the stores' locations and stuff by number or whatever, and then they have a legend. They always have the restrooms highlighted all over the place on there, so you could do that. A digital map by Ocean Shores, pop it up. This is the whole downtown, or this is our corridor of all the businesses, where they are and who they are, and this is where the restrooms are.
Well, and it would really actually be, I would think, a positive if on the sign, these are the places that are, please support these places that provide public restrooms, type situation.
Or just have them sponsor them.
Same thing.
I think the other thing that comes to mind is the variances from weekend to weekend. Like this upcoming weekend.
Sure.
I mean, there's 1,000 people in town, 10,000 people in town.
There is.
And I'm looking forward to the 4th of July, 100,000 people, whatever that number is. But we gotta, it's kind of a broad spectrum we have to try to service.
I think somehow surveying what's available. I'm just referring back to my experience where I've talked to some of the merchants, and they don't want anybody knowing that they have a restroom.
Right.
I'm not sure how you'd go about that.
So I'll go back. Do we have questions that we feel are good to ask the community via survey like we've done in the past with the Parks Department of what they want, or biking and walking that we did? Or do we just want to come up with our recommendations to go to the mayor and then the city council if he wants to take it to them about location, signage, that kind of thing? What's the thought of the commission about whether a survey to the people or just come up with our own ideas to put forth? Dennis?
What about taking the initiative, someone taking the initiative that's on the commission or whatever, to take the time to investigate who has the public restrooms, that are wide open to their people, and go physically ask if it's okay, if they would be willing if something like that happened.
Is that something the subcommittee be willing to do? Because we have Steve and we have Randy that are on the subcommittee for
And
this.
then it would kind of give us a direction as far as if it was really feasible or not.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
It's a good idea.
Thorne?
I get the feeling we're kind of overthinking this.
We might be.
Why don't we just ask the mayor to spend $50 to put up a restroom sign at the traffic circle pointing that way?
Well,
we did the signs down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to the mayor about this concept, which is why we're having our discussion. And he agrees that signage is or would be helpful. But then it's one thing to have the idea and then the execution phase, right? What's it look like? Who pays for it? That kind of thing.
I'll give him the $50.
Okay, we have a donation of $50 for one sign pointing towards the shop, or two signs.
I'll even send away for him and buy them.
Gotcha. Okay,
And
So-
and that sign is going to point to the bathroom you described earlier.
Shiloh, right? Shiloh Way, which is our existing 24/7, well, not quite 24/7 during the day, because I think they close it at night for reasons. that could-
Incidentally, it is on Google Maps as a public restroom. And there's another one at the state park
Oh,
on Damon Road as you come into Ocean Shores. And those are the only two public restrooms listed within the city.
okay, thank you for doing that.
So yeah, it's there.
Yes, you're,
Every restaurant has to have a butter restroom.
Actually-
It's a health code.
Every workplace that has employees is required by Washington law to have restrooms, and it's a matter of the number of employees and the gender. How many restrooms they have to have.
but then don't they have the right to say for customers only?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, so that gives them an out, and you're right, they have to have, if food and drink are served, they have to have a restroom. But that doesn't mean public restroom, right? By the law. Okay, so we've got a donation, so. So do we think we just need to start with the sign and then look for alternative? Is that a way forward for us?
A good starting point, for sure.
Okay.
When you, put one of those surveys online,
Yes.
do we get data as to, how many people are responding?
Yes. Yes.
And is it in the low 20% or?
When we did the walking and biking, the planning commission, we came up with 21 projects or places. We narrowed it down to like 16 and put that on a survey of what the citizenry thought was most important for them using the city as their biking and walking. And so we came up with those and we categorized them in things that we could get done under 2 years, and then 2 to 4, and then long-term, 5 years and longer. And so what we did is the first thing, the number one thing everybody wanted was a biking trail, and we've got the 15-mile loop. I've followed up with Blue Zones about where the signage is for that, and they haven't gotten back to me. So I'm a little concerned. I'm going to follow up again tomorrow on that particular one, because we heard it was going to take about a year, but we haven't heard any follow-up. There it is. We have a restroom sign.
$6.
There. All right, so the donation now is at 52. I'm getting it. Okay, so we did that, and then we took those top 5 items and we actually added them to the Parks Department comprehensive plan. And so those are not only listed for us, but in the comprehensive plan for the Parks Department.
Do you remember how many respondents?
We ended up with like 243 responses.
And how does someone know that a survey is online?
We had to go through an education process. First off, we held town halls here. We had 4 or 5 town halls in this room at various times. And then we advertised that it was online through the library and
We posted it on the website, social media.
the city website. Yeah. So we did a couple of things there for education purposes. And we got 242 responses.
Hardcore. You know, they're among the hardcore. Who have a real interest in this.
Mhm. Right. So, okay. Any other thoughts on that? Let's see if we can talk to some of the business owners and see if any movement can be done that way. I'll talk to the mayor tomorrow at my meeting with him about signage. I know he's been considering other options, but one of the questions was location. Where would be best to put those if we move forward with them? Okay, anything else on that? Okay, the next item that we have is our handbook update. Commissioner Bees told me that he's looked at his pages 51 to 67 on public hearings, and he did not find any changes to them. I've got pages 1 through 21. I'm about page 11 going through them, and I have massive changes. So I'm working through that. Anyone else had a chance to go through? Randy, did you have a chance to go through your ethical policies on that yet? Okay. And Steve, did you get a chance?
No.
Dennis?
I've been through it and I've highlighted to check and see if is it the RCWs have changed?
Statute.
And I've got to look though, I've got about 6 or 7 of those to look up, but other than that, I've been through everything.
Thor, did you get a chance?
Yeah, there was pretty much all RCW stuff.
Yeah, it hasn't been updated. Have the RCWs been updated since our 2022
I think so.
version? Okay. So we'll, and Dan?
Yeah, my sections have to be completely downloaded. have been changed.
Okay,
One was 24, one was 25.
awesome.
Went down a little.
Super. So we'll get that together and we'll make those updates as we get them. And then we'll have to vote on the changes when we get them all together. And then it will have to go to council for approval of the changes to the handbook. Okay. Anything else on the handbook? We will have to come up with a secretary after it goes into effect on 3 July. So at our 8 July, which is our next meeting, we'll have that discussion. Marshall, Community Development Liaison Report, anything for us today?
Nope, I think we've covered most of what I've been working on. So, yeah.
Okay, now we do have some things that have passed that have been sent for council review.
Right.
Yeah, will probably end up on the agenda here pretty soon. I mean, yeah, they're on the list, they're in the queue. There's no council meeting this evening, but. Okay. Any commissioner have a report? Okay. I've just said what I was gonna say, that there's no city council meeting tonight, and I have a meeting with the mayor tomorrow, so. Provide him some feedback.
There's no meeting tonight?
There is no meeting tonight. No, there was conflict among. They wouldn't, I don't believe they would have had a quorum tonight. So they just canceled it to
And the
get,
convention center was.
oh, that's another thing, right? The convention center was also booked. Okay, public communication, anything in? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you were waiting for a year for something concerning the survey on the biking and walking. What were you waiting for? What were you waiting for?
Oh, so what we did, you know, we did the survey, we came up with it. What I'm waiting for is Blue Zones.
Blue zones.
They have commissioned the signage that go with it.
Okay.
And I've asked Chris for an update. He hasn't responded.
Is he gonna provide the blue zones?
The signs have been, they outsourced that to a company out of Snohomish, I believe it was. And they said it would take about a year to get. I just wanted to get a follow-up on how we're progressing with that.
They're paying.
Yes, oh, it's, yeah, no cost to the city at all. I'm gonna follow up tomorrow, to see if Scott maybe has heard back from them, because I didn't get a response.
It's gonna follow the map the library is.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So that's really what I'm waiting on, is that. Any comments from afar? Vita? Anything for us?
Hi, Mark. I don't have any comments at this time, but I just wanted to thank you for accommodating me earlier in the hearing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Susan, do you have anything for us? Okay. Randy, do you got anything?
Nope, I sort of had trouble getting to the meeting. Our internet service has been terrible. So I'm coming in at the tail.
I won't ask you what service you have, so.
Oh, that's okay. It just at the south end. I was down there trying to get in and it wouldn't.
Gotcha. Don, do you have anything for us?
Nothing at all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our next meeting will be July 8th. It's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. here in the Ocean Shores Library. Secretarial will be Randy Johnson. Here we go. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Done. All in favor?
Aye.
I